Hello, you're listening to 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. My name is Danny Krasik, and today I am sitting down with the amazingly talented singer-songwriter Stacey Ryan. Stacey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So, obviously, all musicians start off, having to figure out that music is their path. How'd you figure out that music was the path for you?
Honestly, in my brain, there was like never an alternative route in my
Mhm.
head. Like, ever since I was in like elementary school, I remember being like, music class is my favorite class. I don't want to go to any other class. And then that just kind of like kept manifesting itself in high school and college. Then I go to college for music because I'm like, this is the only thing that I'm going to do with my life. And here I am. It came
Yeah.
true, you know?
There you go. Yeah. And I mean, in terms of influences, what kind of thing influenced your style? What kind of music did you listen to growing up that made you kind of evolve into what you ended up being?
Honestly, I really owe a lot to my dad for my dad is like such a musical guy. He plays piano. He like can tell you the year that any song has come out between like 1965 and 1990. It's kind of crazy. He just has this like giant lexicon in his head. Um and he would also make these I I guess a mixtape. Like he would just burn his own songs on it or burn songs on CDs and like make his own little like I don't want to say playlist. This is terrible. He would make CDs and tapes on his own that he of his favorite songs that he would play like on the weekends. And I remember being young, like 7, 8 years old, and I was like, Dad, do we have to listen to this again? Like this music from the 70s that I don't really know. But all that, like listening to that and getting that like musical influence from a really young age definitely like shaped my style into being something more like old school but still new because I was also like growing up listening to like Kelly Clarkson on the radio. So I
Mhm.
kind of had like all these influences from like all these different places and now that's why my music is so what it is. It's
Mhm.
like all over the place in the best way, you know?
Mhm. So, as a songwriter, right, you write a lot of songs. Very
I
generic question.
do.
Kind of your job, yeah. How much of your music, my question is, how much of your music is directly autobiographical and how much is just based on general feeling and then you take it from there? Like, how much of it are you writing directly about yourself versus how much would you say that you're, telling fictional stories in your work?
That's a great question, Danny. I definitely started, it's funny, when I was like 18, and I was like in college and I was like starting my musical like journey, I guess, to really learning music and theory. I would actually like not write songs because I had this weird rule for myself and I was like I can only write music when I've like gone through some shit. I was like first breakup or first love or whatever. And so I kind of had like this weird like self rule that I imposed on myself. Um but then that kind of faded away quickly and I started writing songs. Honestly, I started first writing about other people and like other stories that I can kind of think of in my head because I was like, I don't want to do this rule thing anymore. Like I feel music, I feel lyrics, I want to write about it. And then when I got signed and moved to LA, I started working with insane songwriters we would love to like find an idea, find a story, and just write it from there. So I did do a lot of writing like that, but it definitely morphed into me writing completely about my own experiences because I started living through some stuff, like moving away from home and like just meeting new people out here and starting this crazy career and stuff definitely gave me a lot of inspiration. So I would say throughout my career so far, it's been a mix of both, but mostly like autobiographical. Definitely some hard hitting things that happened to me.
Well, speaking of that, you did just release your first album, Blessing the Skies, released earlier this year. And in the time from, first breaking onto the scene up to this point, a lot has changed for you, especially in the last year. So how has this very hectic 2025 for you influenced your writing and the direction that your music has been going?
I mean, this has probably been the year where I've really like had to figure a lot of stuff out, like with last year, um leaving the record label, and like that was all I ever knew as an artist in my professional career. And so kind of like finding that new path and that new way to go about everything that I do definitely has influenced just my overall like feeling and heart, which is changing my music all the time.
Mm.
And really it's honestly like cool. Cool is not the best word, but like I almost don't even like notice it, how it's like influencing the way I write, because I'm just like also changing as a human and changing the way I feel
For
about
sure,
things.
yeah.
And that like finds itself into the way I write without me even really like noticing it, which I think is
Mhm.
kind of cool because we all are growing and changing and feeling new emotions all the time. So I've definitely been writing from like, I don't even want to say a different spot than when I was writing for the album, but where like I'm always like digging into that well, like that feeling that I had when all the label stuff was happening. But then that kind of morphed into like, this is just life now. And this is how I feel about life in my career. So that it's definitely making me write from a more like mature place, I think for sure.
Well, there you go. So with the album, you released a lot of the songs were singles ahead of time. Some of them even coming out like 6 months in advance of the actual album. Hairstyle changed a bunch, obviously, in that time as well. Was this always planned to be like a full album, or were you just releasing songs and then realized, this all kind of ties together as one complete work?
I mean, what's crazy is that when I was in the middle, or I guess spring of 2024 was when I left Island Records and left my record deal. I had a whole album ready to go to
Hmm.
be like, hey, here's my debut album. Let's put it out. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Like
We went
recorded
our
or
separate
written?
recorded, not like finished, but like all the demos, all in order,
Okay.
ready to go. And I was like, okay, here's my album. And then obviously that didn't end up happening. We went our separate ways. And right after that, obviously I was feeling a lot about this rupture and like this breakup. And I started writing from a place that I had never like felt before. And it just made me kind of not even really take a new direction in the writing. I just like felt this weird, like innate sense in me where I was like, I have inspiration and I need to write about what is happening to me, like in this moment. And that ended up like that original album that almost came out in 2024. I think two of the songs remained on the final project. And
Interesting.
we didn't even like it, we didn't mean for that to happen. That wasn't the plan. That's just kind of like we started writing amazing music, real, true, authentic music. And I was like, I need to put this out.
Mhm.
Like, this is what felt the most pivotal to me in the moment to put out. Those songs that on that other project are still so dear to me. I love that music so much. And I do think that eventually they will find their way out there into the stratosphere. But
Mhm.
I don't know. Like, my emotions took like this crazy right turn and I was like, oh my God, I gotta follow it. And then so many new amazing songs like stemmed
Mhm.
from that.
Well, that was kind of you kind of just answered my next question, which was going to be, with the Lost album, if we'll call it that, is
Yeah.
I mean, how are you someone that just writes? I mean, obviously you're someone that writes from a very emotional and very personal place, but are you someone that like, do you just have a whole backlog of, oh, we'll get to this eventually at some point, or are you just like, these are the 10 songs that we're recording, this is the project?
I think that stuff like that can change at the drop of a hat, honestly,
Mhm.
because we are always changing in how we feel about, the songs, and our craft and our life is always changing. And that's why I feel like these songs, like they are not forgotten, they're not lost, like they are in my giant Santa bag full of songs that I like if they come around, amazing, and maybe they're just a song that captured a moment that is just, maybe it never comes out, maybe I only play it live. Like I think I don't really have a hardcore plan of what happens to those. I mean, I've written so many, like you said, so many songs at this point, so many sessions, and even if they don't come out or they never see, not the light of day, because it's see the light of day to me, but it all culminated into me like writing the songs that I did for this project. So I think, like none of it's wasted, or none of it is like, oh, like that song, whatever. Like it all kind of reached this greater peak,
Mhm. For
like
sure, yeah.
stepping stones.
Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking of the album, I've been listening to you for a while, and the album, it's great, great album. It does sound
Hmm.
very different from the EP that you released a couple
Hmm.
years ago. Which, I mean, to boil it down in simple terms, I feel like was a lot more like bombastic, whereas the new album has a lot more ballad work, and it gets heavier and stuff like that. How would you say that you have, not as a lyricist necessarily, but as a musician, how have you evolved? Obviously, we talked about from a lyrical standpoint, but from what was the driving thing behind that musical transition?
I mean, I have been so musical my entire life. Like that is no surprise and no secret to anyone. And when we first started working on the first project, this was my first time like writing. Well, I get it was like my first time writing like legit songs, like in a session with other people. So I'm getting all this influence, and all of like we're 8 people in a room,
Yeah.
So you have 8 brains making the same song and adding their touch. And
Mhm.
also I was brand new to like the scene and being signed and like being a signed recording artist. And so I still was like figuring out how I wanted that to sound. And I think my first EP, bombastic is an amazing word. Love it. It's like it's splashy, it's bright, but it still has all those very like musical and like theory stuff behind it, which that was definitely my influence for sure.
Mhm.
But I think, and what I love about like projects is that they capture a moment in time. I feel like that EP captures that first year in LA, the craziness, the wacky, wild industry vibe, like so
Mhm.
well. And I think as you know, grew, as I grew into being one, an independent artist, two, an independent like person, like
Yeah.
moving out from my hometown all the way out here, that definitely
Leaving
just
Montreal about a year ago.
leaving Montreal about like 5 years ago now. It definitely shows itself through my music and how I don't want to say refined, because I mean, I guess so. I think this album has that more like mature touch to it, which is due to the fact of, just me like growing and
Mhm.
living and learning all the time. Like I went to music school and I loved it, but I'm still always learning about music theory and taking inspiration from other artists. And so that also shaped how that album kind of took a little bit of a, like a jazzier
Mhm.
R&B soul type route, but that's always been deep inside me too, so it's like it took that time to kind of let it bloom and discover
Mhm.
itself, and then it like really just translated through the music without really me trying, because it was me at the basis of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Summarized it.
Period.
Summarized perfectly. There you go.
Amazing.
So to promote the album, you just wrapped up your first ever headlining tour. Congratulations. If you didn't get a chance to go, you missed out because it was great. What went into actually getting that off the ground and setting that up? In addition
Man,
to like figuring out the set list and stuff like that, because you have some very distinct eras already in your career.
I do.
Trying to balance
I
all of
got eras.
that.
I love it. Well, I continue to say that this tour is my greatest accomplishment to date,
Mhm.
because I've done many tours before. I've done like supporting tours, I've done festival performances, I did a couple headline shows in different cities. And the main difference was that I always had some kind of label support or tour manager or someone who took care of a lot of the groundwork, including
Mhm.
booking and doing all that stuff. And what was different this time around was that I had my agents, the tour, like the shows got booked. I didn't do that. The shows got all booked. We had the routing, but then everything else was up to like me and my small team.
Mhm.
So booking the van, booking the trailer, booking all the Airbnbs, booking literally everything you could think of was me
Hmm.
and my manager and his assistant. But it was an extreme undertaking that throughout the whole process, there were moments at every turn where I was like, I don't know if I'm thinking of everything. If we're gonna start the tour and then, oh, something's wrong with the van, or like I was thinking of literally everything that could go wrong. I was like, oh, the van's gonna show up and it's not gonna have the proper thing to attach a trailer to it, or the
Yeah.
van's not gonna be able to, just something. I was like, there's gonna be something that goes wrong because I am not like, I don't love the logistics of planning.
Hmm.
I have an artist brain. I'm like, that is like my nightmare. And all I want to do is like play the songs and play the music and be on stage.
Yeah.
So doing all that for the first time was very scary because I was like, there's going to be one thing that I don't think of that will ruin everything,
Hmm.
which is definitely like, I guess I wasn't setting myself up amazingly, but I really should have had more confidence in myself because obviously it happened, went
Hmm.
off. And like literally the only kind of crazy bad thing that happened was the tire on our trailer exploded and we pulled into a garage, literally like down the road. They
Hmm.
fixed it for $80. And we got to the show, the venue, on time because that day we were an hour early for some reason. So I was like,
The
literally
universe knew.
the universe knew. And I was like, everything that kind of could have went wrong didn't. So I was
Hmm.
like, one, I have to be more faithful in my planning and believing in my planning because it, like, it did the thing. But it was definitely like when you hear people talk about like touring as an independent artist, like believe them when they say that it is crazy and very DIY and definitely a little bit tough, but also like so rewarding. And so you're like, I did that,
Hmm.
you know? So it's
Yeah.
like, it's definitely that balance between those two things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of, I mean, promotion side, that obviously you took off originally through some TikToks, including your famous Yellow Croc TikTok.
Yellow
Um,
Crocs.
so I mean, how have you continued to utilize social media and other media just other than just the music to either influence you creatively, and how has that influenced you as a person as well as through the marketing?
I mean, social media, especially TikTok, is like has changed so much from the first time that I was kind of like blowing up. It was a completely different time too. It was COVID. We were
Mhm.
all on our phones. We all didn't really have much to do. So we had all that time to just sit around and make music and follow trends. And obviously that's still happening to this day. And I'm still definitely utilizing that, but it looks a lot different now because life is back to, quote unquote normal, and the like everyone now has a shot to get discovered on TikTok or on the internet, which like is an amazing thing. That's what happened to me. But now there's like this market is becoming so like oversaturated, which changes the algorithm, changes the trend, changes how people consume music on social media and stuff. So it's kind of just like keeping on that and just like being aware of like the surroundings and how it's changing and just trying to adapt the best as possible. And I think I kind of killed it. I'm still like, posting about like what's so fun is that it's kind of even now, like don't text me when you're drunk is popping back around. It's like having its own little re-viral moment right now. So I'm like, people do miss that era of
Mhm.
like when we were all stuck at home, but it's also like changed and become this way larger thing that
Mhm.
I think anyone would have thought. But, it's just like just studying. Studying social media is a crazy thing
Mhm.
because you're like scrolling and you're like, I am working, but I'm also scrolling. So it definitely messes with your mind a little bit because you're like, this feels like I'm not doing anything, but
Yeah.
I'm actively like just seeing what other, like taking inspiration from other creators is also so important and like bouncing off their ideas because that's how like that creative or that community music like place started on TikTok was people
Mhm.
jumping off of ideas of others. So I think that's still super relevant, including like trends and musical trends. So we're all just like one big music community. And it definitely looks different now than it did 3 years ago, but we're still kicking. We're still there.
There you go. Well, here's the big question for any artist is what's next?
I mean,
Oh,
I've
very open-ended,
started
but
very open. I mean, I would love to get back to Europe. I want to tour Europe again. I've done it as like a support act, but I've never done my own tour.
Mhm.
Obviously, putting on your own tour is a crazy feat. I know, I just did it. So we're going to see what that looks like. Maybe it's taking another support run next year in Europe. I just want to like get back out there, see my people, play the music. I'm always writing. I am full of inspiration more now than ever, with like, life is a crazy thing how it just keeps throwing things at you and you're like, I'm going to make that a song.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, I'm pretty much writing, working on getting back out on the road, working on festivals because I last year I with doing the tour and organizing that, I didn't really have time to do many. I only did one in Brazil, which was, I mean, come on. If I had to do one festival the whole year, doing it in Sao Paulo was pretty awesome.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely excited to get back in front of that festival crowd, especially this summer. So, just like we're keep on keeping on.
There you
That's what
go.
we're doing, and it's like I think artists and musicians, like, this is kind of um this cycle that you fall through, like you write music, you put out an album, you do the tour to promote it, and then you just kind of do it again and again and again, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that sounds like the coolest life ever,
Mhm.
and I get to do that.
You do.
So that's kind of the next, just like doing what I always do.
There you go.
That's an open-ended answer to your vague open-ended
An
question.
open-ended answer to an open-ended question. Perfect.
Perfect.
If you could look back in time at your past self, what's something that you would say to your past self?
Oh,
At
good
any point
question.
in time, you now looking back at any point on your past. Doesn't have to be you as a kid, doesn't have to be you 5 years ago, anytime. What
Hmm.
advice would you give yourself? And when, if you want to say?
That's good. That's good. I would go back to my probably like 13, 14-year-old self. Actually, this is so funny. My mom sent me like this Facebook memory she got the other day of
Mhm.
me singing with the jazz band at my school like fundraiser in our cafeteria in like 2014. And I see me there just so like shy, holding the mic stand, no movement because I'm like nervous, looking at the lyrics on the music stand,
Mhm.
like just like a kid who loves to sing and make music but didn't really know what she was doing yet. So I would go to her and I would be like, "You'll figure out how to move on stage, girl. You'll figure out how to make this your favorite thing in the entire world. You will not be nervous anymore before going on stage. You'll be excited."
Mhm.
That's not really advice. That's just like, I'm telling you this. So keep on doing it because eventually it'll become like your favorite thing in the entire world.
Perfect. And then, let's end on a seasonal note. Let's end on a seasonal note. You were just featured on a Christmas song.
I
How are you
was.
celebrating the holidays?
Oh man, I'm going back to Montreal, getting my little fill of snow and ice and terrible drivers over there without their winter tires on yet. Actually, no, it's a law in Quebec that you have to put winter tires on from a specific date, I think. But anyway, I am just going to be with my family. I am really excited that I'm lucky enough to be able to go home for the holidays and hang out with my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, all my extended family, and I'm just going to chill. I love chilling a lot. It's been a crazy busy year, so I'm definitely going to take this time to like reset and just really like manifest and what's that, like, vision board,
Yep.
for like my 2025 and really pick out some like pointed things. But overall, resting
There you go. Perfect.
and probably like drinking some wine with my parents. I'm very excited to do that too.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Stacey, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
all of your work can be found on Spotify. If you're interested, definitely recommend checking her out if you want. And yeah, have a great holiday season.
Woo!